Hi, I'm Nick with the Westside Church of Christ in Griffin, Georgia. In Psalm 57 and verse 2, David says, I call to God Most High, to God who fulfills His purpose for me. This is an amazing truth that we find here, and the truth is that God does in fact have a purpose for us, and that God's purpose cannot be frustrated. God's plans will come to pass. And many people believe this idea means that what David is saying here is that God has a singular purpose for us. Some people refer to this as a calling. I was called by God to this purpose. And the idea here is that there is one thing that God has called you to do. And until we submit to God, we can never really fulfill that purpose that God has for us. Our lives then become like a maze. There's many choices, but there's only one correct path. And every misstep leads us further into the maze, further away from God, and further away from fulfilling His purpose for us. I don't believe that this is what David is saying. I believe what David is saying is that wherever we are in life, we can fulfill God's purpose for us. It's not about trying to figure out what God wants me to be, whether He wants me to be a preacher, an accountant, a mechanic, or whatever God might have planned for me. It's not about that. It's about accomplishing God's will regardless of my job, my position, or my circumstances. And so this is what we see with David. David was experiencing bad things, but because of what Saul had done, because of the evil Saul had done, not because of anything David had done wrong, not because of wrong choices he had made. It was because of Saul's evil. And so God was still able to use David to further grow him into God's servant, even though he was hiding in a cave in these dire circumstances. If God could do this, then God can fulfill His purpose for us. I think a good example of this is the Apostle Paul. We see God fulfilling His purpose in the Apostle Paul through his preaching and teaching, through his missionary travels, when he is in the synagogues, through his imprisonments. We see him fulfilling his purpose in Paul. But what about when he was persecuting Christians? It was an awful thing. But we still see God fulfilling His purpose in those times. We see the saints that Paul was persecuting scatter throughout the world, taking the good news of Jesus everywhere they went. And so no matter where you are in life, no matter where you find yourself, no matter how bad things are, God can and will accomplish His will and fulfill things in you. Thank you.